Hi there. Glad you could join us with this CarePortal update. My name is Kyle Johnson. I'm a regional manager for CarePortal. I'm here with Starla Abraham. She's a CPS Faith-Based Specialist. We're just really excited about the system updates that are coming out with CarePortal, and we wanted to explain a little bit about what that's going to look like. This is specifically for the supervisors of CPS whose units have been trained and activated with CarePortal. If your units have not been trained yet, that is still a very important process to go through before any of the caseworkers are submitting requests through CarePortal. And you can get with your local faith-based specialist in order to set one of those trainings up. But this video is really meant to just kind of explain some of the improvements that have come through the CarePortal system lately, which I'm really excited about as a regional manager. This is something that I think is going to improve both sides, the requesting agencies and the churches. And if you kind of need a quick refresher on what this process really looks like, it starts with caseworkers identifying the families who are in need. That is crucial, valuable information for the organizations and the churches who want to help those families. And so CarePortal has created a process where caseworkers can get a referral form signed and enter this request through this email system that lands in the inboxes of the local faith community. And then when appropriate and when possible, that local faith community can respond directly back to the caseworker. And in the end, the family in need, they get helped. And so this process is tested and proven, and it's only improving with these system updates, and it's only gaining in the exponential impact that we can make as more churches sign up, as more counties get launched. It's a very exciting time to be in this and see this happening. So just as a quick refresher again, this is what we call the grid. The grid is something that explains really well for churches especially to understand the full scope of what orphan care really is, kind of challenging their perspective that it's only taking kids into your homes, fostering and adopting, but it also includes prevention, and it also can include just physical, tangible needs. That is actually where CarePortal is focusing most on right now. In Texas, it is with Tier 1 requests. Tier 2 and Tier 3 requests will come later. Starla, actually, this is a good point for you to step in here. How would you kind of see Tier 2 and Tier 3 fitting in now in the environment in the state?
The state of Texas, as well as in other places around the nation, CarePortal only is working Tier 1 at this time. As far as Tier 2 and Tier 3, Tier 2 requires a background check, so that would a lot of times involve churches or volunteers that will interact with minors that are in the custody of the state. Tier 3 really is like respite, foster, and adoption. So part of our faith-based initiative in Texas is that we are working Tier 2 and Tier 3 through our faith-based initiatives and through other various programs. But again, for CarePortal, it is mainly Tier 1 at this time. Reasons for requests are new purpose statements. So they may look familiar, but they are slightly different. The first one is to help strengthen a bio family, to help prevent a child from entering foster care. There's a huge focus on those two particular purposes for using the CarePortal. Also, we want to draw your attention to help reunify a biological family. And we also want to draw your attention to the last two, which are to help improve a child's well-being and prayer requests. What we're now asking is that these two purpose statements be used only if none of the above purpose statements apply to the request. Now let's talk about the request submission and approval process. Previously, once a staff member has been trained and their unit activated, then they were allowed to utilize the CarePortal. We asked that they first would send an email to the faith-based specialist and their supervisor for approval, just so that they could have additional eyes to look over the request and make sure the request met standards and that no confidential information was being used in the request. Our new approval process has changed, and so now the managers and supervisors have an opportunity to be able to look over each and every request before it goes live onto the website. So, of course, the workers identify the need with the family, and they will also kind of determine that the family is willing and open to a possible relationship and connection with community partners. That family, confirming that, will sign the waiver that the worker has for them. Now, we ask that the workers keep the waivers in their car, and the reason for that is that if they're out with the family and it seems like this is a great idea, it's a great opportunity, and the family is willing, then they can go ahead and have the family sign the waiver, and right there on the spot, they can utilize their phone or their computer to submit the request instead of having to go back out to the family to get the waiver signed. So once they have the waiver signed, then the worker can go to www.careportal.org and complete the submit a request form. Now, the request will go to both their supervisors and the agency representative, and for the state of Texas, it will go to the faith-based specialist for their particular area. Every request will always go to the supervisor and the agency representative. The supervisor will review the request, and the supervisor can approve the request. Once the supervisor approves the request, then it will go out to all of the churches, and a confirmation email will be sent to the caseworker, the supervisor, and the agency representative. We want to take a moment and ask you to take note that when you receive the receipt email, to keep that email, because the worker will continue to utilize that email, or the supervisor can utilize that email on behalf of the worker to go in and close the request when needed. So the church will respond. So once it goes out and a church decides that they are willing and can meet the need, then the church will contact the caseworker, and they will provide the caseworker with their contact information. We're asking that caseworkers respond back to the church as soon as possible, at the very latest within 24 hours. Once they contact the church and discuss arrangements for meeting the needs, then we ask that the worker go in and close the request, and that's where the receipt email comes into play. So they will go back to the receipt email, scroll down to the very bottom, and close out the request. We also ask that the caseworkers stay available to the church and the family to make sure that everything goes smoothly. We want to talk about writing a compelling and clear request. We would like for the caseworkers to start with a brief intro to tell the church a little bit about the family, what they're asking for, what are the needs, and why is it a need. So when we put don't forget the why is it important that this need be met? And then be specific on what is actually needed. And we want to think about policy-wise. So if a family moves into a new place and they have to have beds for each of the children, then that's going to be the top of our request list. If the family can use additional furniture, then the worker will put that in there, stating that all other furniture is also welcomed, or something of that nature. And we also want to make sure that they try to keep it compelling, but also concise. So let them know that the family is making progress because people invest in success.
All right, let's look at a couple examples of, say, a good request, and then we can even look at a bad example of a request. But a lot of what Starla just mentioned in the clear and concise examples, you'll see in this request. It's a great one. It gives a little bit of an introduction. It explains why it's important for this family to stay together, and what the purpose of this request is really for, what the heart of it is. And you see really just important keywords like safety, security, remaining with their biological mother. Those are really important things for a church to understand of why should I answer this request? My job is really to be working mostly with the churches. And so I'm coaching them on how to reply to this, how to respond. And sometimes they get a lot of requests in a single week. And some requests have like single sentences, while others, like this one, have a little bit more of a clear, compelling reason for why they want to be involved in this family in particular. When it comes to details, I think it's really important also to provide ages, provide the gender, because, if you're asking for something, say like for bedding or clothes or shoes, it's helpful for the church to immediately kind of picture what they could be providing for these kids. It may not seem like a big deal right away, but it does help because those are the churches are going to immediately want to know those things. So go ahead and provide that in the initial request. And then I love how the ending of the request kind of itemizes the things that are needed. You never really want to make a church have to like read paragraphs of words and story to figure out and kind of dig out what the items are, what is actually being requested. Make it easy for them to be able to kind of glance over it and realize, okay, they need 2 twin bunks, some cleaning supplies, and 2 dressers. And then they can get the story up above. So that's really important. And I want you to really understand too that just as important as being able to meet the need, a lot of churches sign up for the potential opportunity to meet this family and to deliver these things directly to the family. That is why it's so crucial for you to get those, for caseworkers to get those forms signed by the families before the requests go into the system, because that enables the church to be the one that comes and delivers a bed, to maybe take the family shopping and to develop a little bit of a relationship going forward. Now let's look at a bad request. Right off the bat, you notice that the mother's name is given, and even worse are the children's names that are given. That is a huge no-no. The genders are not given, only the ages. And then you also get into some really hairy details about just the nature of the CPS request in the first place. It's one thing to say that there was some type of domestic violence involved, but to actually list the name of the perpetrator or the alleged perpetrator, that's not good. We've got to remember that the description on each request is going to be public information. It's going to go onto the CarePortal website, and anybody can access that information. So just be mindful. Supervisors, please be mindful. When you get these requests, they've been input by one of your caseworkers. They're going to come to you first for editing and approval. If you see anything that can be enhanced or any information that needs to be changed, you will have that opportunity to make those changes before any churches see it. And we're relying on you to make those changes so that we can make sure that the safety of these families is secure.
Supervisors, the considerations that we're going to go over, most of them will be done by the caseworkers, but we want you to be aware so that you can help monitor, as well as in case you need to step in to ensure that some of the items are actually done. So first of all, we want to make sure that we utilize CarePortal when it makes sense without abusing it. Some possible other sources would include concrete services, child welfare boards, and other agencies. There are times when we utilize them together. So, for instance, we have been very successful on requesting labor from the faith-based community and providing materials through concrete services. Also, we want to take into consideration that CarePortal requests are actually provided by everyday people like yourselves and myself. So there are times of the month when requests may get picked up quickly, and maybe towards the end of the month they may not get picked up as quickly, or there may be different times of the year when there are different causes going on or different needs, so forth and so on, that may cause the request not to get picked up, and we may see kind of a lag in the care portal. So we want to take those into consideration, as well as we want to use Chrome as the browser because it seems to work best for the DFPS computers. Also, remember that the cell phones and home computers can also be utilized for submitting care portal requests. And we want to remind everyone, remind the workers as well as when you're looking over the requests to approve them, that confidential information is not in the request, that there are no names, date of births, and not too much information about the reason the family is involved with Child Protective Services. Also, remember, we want to share how the family is self-sufficient, because those are going to be the families that are going to be the best candidates for Care Portal. Families that are open to having connections within the community, and families that just need that extra encouragement. So when CPS steps away, that family has a network, and perhaps we will not have to see them again. Further considerations: if the estimated amount is more than $250, we suggest that the caseworker break it down into multiple requests instead of one large request, and just or list the services or items being requested, because a lot of times when the churches receive those particular requests, they can respond and say, we have 2 beds, we can provide mattresses. Also, if at all possible, we really want the caseworkers to respond back to the faith-based community within 24 hours. Actually, as soon as possible would be great. So if they could shoot them a quick email, send them a text, or make a quick phone call and let them know that they're busy, but they'll follow up at a later time for more details, that would be great. Also, one of the issues that we've had is closing the request. It is so important to close the request. So reports and things like that's done, as well as churches look, and if another church has already responded or the need has already been fulfilled, then it doesn't make sense for it to still be on the website. So we ask that the workers go in and close the request by going to the initial email, scrolling down to the very bottom, and just clicking on Close Request. We also would like for them to share the story of how the church was helpful whenever possible, and they can easily do this on the Close Request form. So as much as possible, that's our way of being a blessing back to the faith-based community, to let them know that their efforts are appreciated and that they are making a difference.
All right, we're just about finished, but let's talk about some items that we see commonly requested through CarePortal. The first item by far is beds and bedding. We understand that oftentimes families, a huge determining factor for them to be able to stay together or for a placement, maybe a kinship placement to happen, is bedding. Churches, that's something that they can set partnerships up with businesses locally, to where they can get easier access to that. So that's been a pretty successful request we've seen so far. Clothing is another one. We see a lot of requests, especially at the beginning of the school year, for uniforms. And then we do see a lot of utility and rent assistance requests. However, I do want to just caution you on this, because we see a lot of these specific requests go unmet. And I suspect that it's because there's kind of this fear from the church's perspective that that the next month this family is going to be right back in the situation. But the requests for rent and utilities, the ones that we've seen be successful, have explained in the description of the request why this is only kind of a situation for this month, and maybe there's been work lined up for next month or something that just kind of makes this particular request for this month's rent a little bit of a special situation. So keep that in mind. I don't want to set anybody up for expectations that go unmet. So just, keep that in mind. Also with food, food is a really easy request because so many churches have either food pantries that they own and operate and manage, or they have great partnerships with local food banks. And so that's a really easy one for them to step in and not only meet the family, but then help kind of get them set up with one of the local food banks that they have a good relationship with. All right, so Starla and I are going to go through some frequently asked questions where Starla can give some really good answers for you supervisors. How quickly should these caseworkers how quickly should they expect a response?
It depends on the faith community. Some requests are answered in a few hours and some may take a few days. Remember to make the story compelling but be brief, and understand that you may need to break the request in 2 or 3 depending on the amount.
All right. What about just the length of time? How long does a request stay open for?
Usually the request stays open for 30 days. If a request is not met, you may resubmit the request or break it up in smaller requests.
What about when there are multiple responses from the faith community? What happens?
It is first come, first served, so whomever submits that they can meet the request gets the opportunity, and an email will be sent out to others thanking them for responding. However, if you get an email directly from someone in the faith community and you know someone else has responded, please send a correspondence letting them know that the need has already been met.
What about the requests that nobody responds to or don't get fulfilled?
Resubmit the request and review the way it is written.
Can the faith community, can they ask for the families to attend church services?
Yes, they are more than welcome to ask families to attend services. However, goods and services cannot be withheld from the family if they refuse to attend, and it is totally voluntary. If the family chooses to attend, great. If not, that is still okay.
Fantastic. And do caseworkers and supervisors, do they have to attend the training before they submit a request?
Yes, all staff who want to submit requests must attend the training and must have their unit activated.
And just as kind of a unscripted, is this video, does this consider training?
No, not at all. This is an update. Actual training is still mandatory.
Okay. Now, what about with gift cards? Can caseworkers receive gift cards or cash to purchase items on behalf of the family?
No, caseworkers cannot get cash or gift cards to shop on behalf of the families.
Okay, and then if anybody has questions, who should they call?
They should contact the Regional Faith-Based Specialist, and they can walk you through if you have any questions or concerns.
All right. Well, I appreciate you guys' time. Again, we're very excited about the future of how CarePortal is just getting more and more effective at reaching families. Again, like Starla said, if you have any questions, please do not hesitate to contact your local faith-based specialist. Thank you.